I have a topic I wanted to bring up with you, which is near and dear to my heart because it's been the root of this podcast I've been doing for about 5 years. I get to talk to a lot of, quote, important people that have achieved amazing things. And when I try to get them to talk about the things that that they thought of as maybe a disability or a problem when they were younger that helped fuel them, that when they were younger, they desperately wished it would go away. They thought of it as a weakness. But when they look at the span of their life now, they see that actually helped forge them. And I know you've talked about this, but when you were growing up and stuttered, and it must have been the fuel in some ways to have pushed you forward.
Well, when I was a kid.
You've got this problem licked, by the way.
For me, it was, I was really lucky. I had a mother and a father that my mother would say, don't let this define you. Look at me, Joey. You're handsome, you're smart, you're a decent young man. Don't let this define you. It taught me how to fight. There used to be a joke when I was growing up in grade school and high school that, you could beat up Biden, but he'd hurt you going down.
Right.
The point was that it made me realize in our family, this is God's truth, Conan, the four of us, we were never allowed to make fun of anyone, no matter how mean they were to us, if they had something they couldn't overcome.
Right.
Swear to God, if you did, you get your rear end kicked when you went home. Right. Not a joke. And so it taught me that there's a lot of people dealing with dilemmas that take away their pride, their dignity. Yeah. I don't know whether it's the thing that pushed me about like, for example, even though I was a stutterer, I ended up being elected the class president kind of thing. I mean, but it wasn't, I didn't run for that reason. It was something about your dignity and your pride.
Yeah.
It doesn't just manifest itself in terms of an impediment. You can, for example, when we were kids, there were a couple hard times financially for my dad. And I remember being invited to, I was talking to this about my sister last night, my best friend, and we were going to a cotillion at Mount Pleasant High School, which was rated the best high school in Delaware, in an area that was not overwhelming, but affluent area. Mm-hmm. And we lived in not bad area, but a less affluent area. Mm-hmm. And I was invited to the cotillion. I went to the Catholic school, St. Helena's in that district. And it was, it was just a little different. I remember being invited, and I was anxious to go. And my mom, I had an uncle who lived with us at the time. He was 5'7", and my mom couldn't find a white shirt for me. And so we got one of his shirts, and with French cuffs on it, and my mother, and it fit loosely, but it fit. My dad had always wore cufflinks to work, and my dad had the cufflinks. We couldn't find it. I didn't know what to do. So my mom goes downstairs over the washing machine in the basement, in the garage level, and gets 2 nuts and bolts and brings them up and puts them on me. And I said, no, swear to God, my word.
Today that's a fashion statement.
And I said, Mom, I can't go. They're going to make fun of me. I said, Joey, if anyone makes fun of you, you turn around and say, you don't have a pair? I swear to God, true, on the health of my children. So I go to the punch bowl, and and this guy, Frank, grabs me and says, hey, look at Biden, nuts and bolts. And everybody started to laugh, and I said, Frank, you don't have a pair of these? I swear to God. I swear to God. He turned and said, yeah, I have them. Anyway.
My theory is that if you stay connected to these things that embarrassed you when you were a kid, whatever it was, speech impediment or anxiety or feeling awkward or not being a good athlete, my list goes on and on and on. Having weird hair, having a weird name.
I wish you had your hair. I'd trade right now if you want.
You want this hair? It comes off. It velcros on the back. Yeah.
If I could do it, I would do it.
I will mail you this wig tomorrow. Do some polling first on how people are going to think about that. But I think what it does is that it gives you empathy. I think empathy comes from a sense, if you've felt that pain, if you see someone else and you sense that maybe they're feeling that pain, you're awakened to it. And that's, I think, the superpower that comes from it is you have...
I'm certain you're right. When I got elected, I was down here hiring staff. I was using Senator Kennedy's office over in the Capitol to interview staff. And I got a phone call from my fire department. They put a young woman on the phone, and she said, there's been an accident. You got to come home December 18th. I wasn't sworn in yet. And he said, there's been your wife is Christmas shopping with your kids. My kids were then 13 months old, almost 3 and almost 4. And she was so nervous. She said, they're dead. And I was enraged by it. I remember going out of the Capitol and looking up in the dome. I swear to God, I'm embarrassed about it. And the guy had cut. I just screamed and didn't know when my boys were alive. They were badly injured, skull fracture and a bow at every bone of his body broken. Virtually, he was in a body cast, arms, legs. Anyway, what I learned, though, is that after that, when I'd show up at a friend's viewing, a family viewing, and they'd stop everything. The family would stop, even if they didn't know, and they'd come to me, just come to me. And I realized what they're really saying is he lost what we lost, and he made it. He's still walking. Yeah. People have to know
that you can persevere, you know.
Yeah. And if you made it through, they think, well, maybe I can't. Maybe I will. I've spent a lot of time over my career with families that are going through tough times.
Yeah.
Because, it gives them some solace. And I want to be clear. I was really lucky.
Yeah.
I had enormous help. By the time I came home, my sister and her had given up their apartment and already moved in to help me raise the kids. My brother did. We have an expression in our family, for real. If you have to ask, it's too late. If you have to ask, it's too late. I never had to ask. And think of the people gone through the stuff that we're talking about. They're heroes. They get up every day, put one foot in front of the other, and do it by themselves. So I had an enormous advantage dealing with my things I went through.
I try to impart that to my kids, that whatever you're going through, even if you're miserable right now, it's going to yield something later on. Of course, what you're describing is the worst thing anybody can describe. And what they're going through usually is something extremely minor. The scale of it, it's the same principle, which is...
Absolutely. The scale varies, but the help needed.